previous video, a lot of you asked for a full, step-by-step tutorial for the prototype, the most epic and successful build on my channel. So that's exactly what I did. This is a huge 1-hour tutorial where I break down everything, how I built it, step by step, so you can recreate the entire thing yourself. Now, this video is not as fast-paced and entertaining as my usual ones. It's more detailed and focused. So if you just want to see the process, the problems I faced, and how everything came together, make sure to check the link in the description. But here, you're getting the full proper tutorial. If you're into this kind of content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps a lot. Also, I added timestamps in the description for every single part of the prototype. There are even multiple versions for some parts. For example, 2 different ribcage designs, 2 head versions, plus custom arms for Kissy Missy, Huggy Wuggy, and Mommy Long Legs. So if you're looking for something specific, just jump to the part you need. And one more thing, let me know in the comments if you enjoy this kind of long tutorial format. I pinned a comment, so make sure to reply there. Alright, let's get started. First up, the legs. Build along with me, pause if you need, and let's do this together. I tried to make everything as clear and easy to follow as possible. So here's the thing, I didn't have enough parts to make all 6 legs completely identical, so they ended up a little different from each other, but that's actually not a problem. The important part is the core structure. The skeleton is the same on all of them. They all use the same joints and connections. The outer design though, that's totally up to you. You can copy mine or come up with your own version. In my build, the legs are paired by position. 2 front legs match, 2 middle legs match, and 2 back legs match. Overall, the design is pretty simple. The only tricky part is at the ends, the hook-like tips. Take a close look there, because the way they're built isn't super obvious. To make things clearer, I will now show you another pair of legs so you can see the differences between the designs. It's actually pretty interesting how they vary. Let's go step by step and build the second variant together. Alright, now let's move on to the arms, probably one of the most recognizable and coolest parts of the whole build. For the fingers, I used this specific construction. In the first video on the channel, it wasn't very clear how I made them, so this time I'm going to show everything slowly, step by step. There's one thing to note here. I'm using a bit of an illegal Lego technique to attach the thumb. It puts some tension on that black piece, so just keep that in mind while building. Also, if you remember the first video, I mentioned reinforcing these two bone parts. Here I'm using those extra gray elements to make the structure stronger and more stable. And another part that wasn't very clear before, the shoulder, those puffy ruffled shoulder pieces. I actually made an earlier version, but then improved it. So in this tutorial, I'm showing you the final version, nice and slow so you can easily follow along and rebuild it yourself. For the final version, I used this kind of construction to make the arm stronger and prevent it from falling apart. So now it's not just for display, you can actually play with it. It's a simple build, but really solid and reliable. And this is how the finished arm looks. I'll build the second arm a bit faster, since it's exactly the same. No major differences here. Alright, moving on, let's get to the body. Structurally, there's nothing too complicated here. It's actually a pretty simple section, so just follow along with me and you'll be fine. And if anything is unclear, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to reply and help out. Now we're moving on to attaching everything to the base. There's honestly not much to break down here. I just connected all the legs to a large platform. This part doesn't really need a step-by-step tutorial. I could have taken the whole platform apart and shown how I built it, but it's pretty straightforward. And let's be real, kind of boring. Here I just slowed everything down so if you really want to recreate it, you can follow along. And honestly, there are tons of ways to do this. Don't feel like you have to copy my exact setup. Try your own ideas and make it work your way. Alright, next up, attaching this front panel. I'll show a more detailed breakdown of how I built it a bit later, but for now, let's keep things moving. Alright, let's take a look at the back, how it's built. It's actually super simple. I used Lego wheels for this part, and they're connected to a piece with a cross axle hole. That lets you adjust the angle of the entire rear section however you want, which is really convenient. What you're seeing here is part of the early version. I ended up tweaking it a bit later, so this is more of the building process than the final result. This is basically where the whole back section will be attached. I'll show everything in more detail soon, but at this stage, I was still experimenting with the design. Alright, now let's move on to the rib cage. The first version is made out of clay. I used air drying clay, not the light foam kind, but the one that hardens over time. To be honest, it's not the best material for something like this. It probably would have been better to use proper modeling plastics that you can bake, especially for the rib cage, but overall, I was still pretty happy with how it turned out. I sped this part up a bit because there's honestly not much to show. Basically, I sculpted the shape, let it dry, and then sanded everything down using sandpaper and nail files just to clean it up and make it nice and smooth. After that, I applied a first coat of white paint as a primer and then went in with the final paint. end, we get this solid piece that fits right into the chest panel, forming the rib cage. And honestly, it looks really close to how it appears on the actual prototype. I was super happy with this version, but some of you didn't like that I used clay instead of Lego. So I made a fully Lego version of the rib cage in the second prototype video. I used this kind of construction here. It's actually a pretty simple build, but at the same time, it looks really clean and elegant. I honestly like it a lot, maybe even more than the clay version. But now I'm curious, what do you think? Which version do you like more? Let me know in the comments. Alright, let me show you this whole chest section in more detail, just to make sure everything is crystal clear. The lantern mechanism looks like this. It's a separate piece, and it attaches right here using this element. Overall, the build is actually pretty straightforward. Funny thing, when I first built the prototype, I completely forgot that I originally wanted to add a curved piece on top to cover this area. So it ended up a bit more open than planned. But if you want, you can definitely add that detail yourself. Next, the ribcage fits into this very simple structure. Here you can see the second version, the Lego one I showed earlier. And this is the platform where the ribcage is mounted. On the back, you can see the structure that holds the entire body of the prototype together. Let me quickly assemble everything so you can see how it all connects. If you had any questions about this section, this should clear things up. Now let's move on. I'll quickly show you how I built the body. This part doesn't really need a deep explanation. The shot might not be super detailed for a piece-by-piece rebuild, but structurally, everything should be pretty clear.
Whew.
Alright, now let's move on to the head. We'll start with the first version, the one I made out of clay. It actually turned out really cool. But a bit later, I'll also show you the version from the second video, where I rebuilt the entire head using only Lego pieces.
Ta-da!
So first, I sculpted the base of the head and let it dry a bit. After that, I built the hood.
You look like
Wrong side out.
First, I made 3 pieces for the hat, the tips of the jester hood. When you work with very thin shapes, this clay tends to crack, so doing delicate details with it turned out to be pretty challenging. Still, it's definitely possible. But for future complex projects, I'll probably switch to a special plastic clay that becomes solid plastic after baking. Looking back at it now, it probably would have been a really cool idea to make the hood removable, like a separate piece. But in my version, the hood and the head are almost fused together into one solid part. The next day, the primer had dried, and it was finally time to start painting. This was probably one of the most creative parts of making the head. I struggled with it quite a bit and wasn't always sure what the best way to paint it was. Sometimes it was hard to apply the paint in thin, clean layers, so I had to fix a few spots along the way. But in the end, I'd say I'm pretty happy with the result. It was actually pretty challenging to paint multiple layers without accidentally getting paint all over the surrounding parts. For the yellow eye, I used a small piece of air clay and simply glued it in place. I think it turned out really nice. I also decided to make the little bells from air clay. I shaped 3 small pieces and attached them to the ends of the hood. Here you can see how I carefully touch up the hood with a marker in the areas where there's a risk of dripping paint onto the head and ruining the whole build. The head turned out pretty well, but it does have one serious weakness. If it falls, these tips might break off. By this point, the pieces had already dried, so I glued them in place. They could stay on their own, but not very securely. Then I painted them gold so everything would match better. After the paint dried, I added small black crosses with a marker. Now the tips look like real little bells, just like on the prototype. Alright, now here's the fully Lego version of the head. In my opinion, it looks a bit simpler. Maybe even a bit more boring compared to the clay version. But for the sake of keeping it 100% Lego, I really wanted to make a pure version, so that's what I did. To be fair, I think it could have turned out much better if I had planned bigger proportions for the prototype from the start. Then I could have made the head larger and added more detail. But since I was working within those size limits, this is pretty much the best result I could get. Also, I saw a lot of comments saying that I mixed up the yellow and blue sides of the hood. I didn't actually mix them up, I just didn't have enough yellow pieces to make it symmetrical to red part. But I did have blue, so I used that instead. If you've got the right pieces, feel free to build it the correct way.
Years. For the Lego head, I had to slightly adjust the mounting compared to the clay version. Also, funny moment, I only noticed this during editing, but one of the pieces actually cracked. You can see it right here, it's an old Lego piece, and over time the plastic just gets weaker and can crack. Now let's build the arms for Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, and Mommy Longlegs. I made several different versions, both from clay and Lego, so if you're looking for a specific one, make sure to check the time codes in the description. I decided to base the arms on metal wires to get that flexible shape. I started with Mommy Longlegs' arm and sculpted it using light air-dry clay. Then I made a fully Lego version of her arm. It actually turned out pretty good, even though I didn't have enough pink pieces, especially bright pink for the hand. Next, I'll show how I built the Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy arms out of Lego. I'm mainly showing Kissy Missy's hand here, since both designs are basically identical. The only difference is the color. And here, I wanted to show you my original idea for their hands. I didn't really like how it turned out in the end, but I thought it might still be interesting for you. The idea was to shape the hands from leftover air-dry clay and then wrap them in fabric. So I decided to include it anyway, just in case you want to try something like that yourself. Finally, here's how I attached the first version of the arms. Then I made a Lego version of Kissy Missy's arm, and I'm showing you how I attached that one as well. Alright, now let's move on to the back, the rear section of the prototype. I actually made two different versions here. The first one is mostly air-dry clay, and then I covered it with fur made from a sock. And honestly, I still really like this version. It looks much closer to how the prototype appears in the game. First, I built a simple base. Then I added a few small details, just so the build wouldn't look empty. Here I was simply checking how everything looked together, testing the proportions, and making sure everything fit the way I wanted.
After that, I left the whole build to dry. And the next day, it was finally time to cover it with fur. At first, my plan was to put a piece of paper over the surface, trace the shape, and then cut the right piece from the sock using that template. But then I had a much simpler idea. I could just cut off the foot part of the sock and pull the remaining part right over the figure. Honestly, it turned out even better than I expected. Now all that's left is to glue it in place, and it will look perfect. Honestly, this idea saved me a lot of effort. Just a few drops of glue, press it down, and it dries almost instantly. Alright, now I'm switching to the fully Lego version of the back. I'll first show it quickly and then we'll break it down in more detail so you can understand how the mechanism works. Now let's take a closer look at this section, where there is the catnap fur. When I first showed it, it probably wasn't very clear on camera, so let's fix that. I'll take it apart so you can see how everything works. These pieces are attached to a movable platform. This part is built the same way. You can see it clearly here. This setup lets you create that semi-rounded shape. The same idea is used on top as well. I'm not going to go super deep into every tiny detail here. Honestly, it's probably more fun if you experiment and come up with your own version of this layered purple structure. And here's the back of the prototype. As you can see, the way it's attached is actually pretty simple. Okay, everything kind of fell apart on me here, so let's take a clearer look while I put it back together. Here's another close-up of the structure. You can adjust the angle, just like I mentioned earlier. And to keep everything solid, it's reinforced from the top with this piece. The main body of the prototype connects right here. After that, it's just a matter of putting everything together. If anything's unclear, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to reply and help. And also let me know if you enjoy this kind of long, detailed tutorial format. I pinned a comment, go reply there. I'm even thinking, maybe I should start a separate channel just for tutorials, or even a Patreon page for this kind of content. But let's decide together. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye.